Boo. Guess who? It's Brie. I'm back. Hey guys. So I've been gone for a couple weeks. And by gone, I mean I haven't been gone, but I haven't been recording. And I'm sure you're wondering why. I did post something on Facebook, but for those of you that don't follow us on Facebook, which you totally should, at WWTN Podcast on all of our social medias. Anyway, um, for those of you who haven't seen, I have a very ambitious 4-year-old who also strives to be a podcaster one day. And she got a hold of my mic and, well, she broke it. So, we have been going through, we ordered a new mic, and that mic was the wrong kind of mic. So I was like, oh, it's okay. We'll just get a different cord because we needed a different cord for it, which wasn't compatible with any like computers. So I was like, all right, we'll just get a converter cord. Did that. The converter cord. Also, by the way, I want to shout out to Playground Music here in Panama City. Paul there helped me out big time. He gave me, so funny story. This cord that I needed, it needed to be an, I think it's called like RVC, or it's not a VCR, obviously, but it's like an RVC cord. It's like circle and it has like 3 prongs on it. Goes into the back of like a microphone. And so I needed that to be able to hook up to my computer. So I needed to find one that was able to go to like a USB. And I also have a Mac, so Macs don't have USBs. So I have a USB hookup for it. So I can't find anything online, and Best Buy doesn't have anything. And I keep on getting like put into like talking to freaking robots over the phone. And I'm just like, so over this. So I look for local music stores and I find this Playground Music place. I call and it rings for a second, rings for a couple more seconds, and I get annoyed and I'm just like, I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna have to buy a whole new mic. So I hang up, and no lie, within 5 seconds of hanging up, I get a call back from the same number, and he's like, "Hey, did you just call?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, first off, that's pretty good customer service. And the guy sounded so nice on the phone. I thought he was a robot too, and it took me a second to realize he was an actual person. And I asked him what kind of cord, or if they had that kind of cord, and he's like, "Yeah, hey, hang on a second." And that's the customer service that I miss, is like people actually being physically there in the flippin' store to be able to be like, "Oh, let me put you on hold so I can go check my inventory." Cool. I know you're actually going to do something, so it makes me feel like, you're actually doing something. So 2 seconds later, he comes back on the phone. He's like, "Actually, I do have one in stock." And I was like, "Awesome." And I make sure it's the right one, and he tells me it's been sitting on their shelf for years. So, I go in, I buy this cord, and, he took care of me. I came home, plugged it in, and I did a test record on our platform, and it gave terrible feedback. And it wasn't their fault. It was the fact that from what I read online, those cords can be iffy when they're not hooked up to like something that is supposed to be hooked up to them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in my brain it does, so it doesn't matter. But it gave terrible feedback. You guys wouldn't have wanted to hear ringing the entire episode. So I was able to return it. They were awesome. So shout out to Playground Music again. There is a location also in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, here, and Panama City. So go check them out. They have like all kinds of instruments. I kind of want to go back there and look at pianos for Charlotte. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for helping me out. And but you didn't, so it is what it is. You let me know that there is good workers still and good customer service still. So thank you for putting that into my brain. Anyway, um, ended up having to buy a whole brand new mic, different kind of mic, the correct kind of mic, which works beautifully. And yeah, uh, all that because of my 4-year-old. So it's all right. She's pretty great. So this week we actually were supposed to have our kids episode come out. And unfortunately, one of our hosts, Alice, is very under the weather. So be thinking of Alice and hope that she gets better soon. But yeah, she's very under the weather, so we can't have her recording because that's gross. We don't want to hear any of those bodily functions. So I decided, because I am so eager to get back and record because I haven't in a couple weeks, I decided to put out a little something for you guys. Like Amy decided to put out a little something for you guys last week because I can do that if I want. So yeah. Anyway, I do, however, have a fabulous, freaking scary, great story that I've been dying to tell you guys for like 3 weeks now. I have it done. I have 2 episodes done. So, that's one I really wanna tell you guys. We will get there eventually, hopefully after next week, but we should be putting out a kids episode at some point this week once Alice starts feeling better. Charlotte's actually gonna co-host it as well. So, I am gonna start off with telling you guys a neighborhood story. And this one is a personal story, and I may have told you guys this last year, but I'm gonna go ahead and relive it just because it's spooky season. So, I'm gonna grab my phone and I will post this video on social medias. Again, at WWTN Podcast if you want to watch it. It is one that is worth watching for sure because it is unbelievable. So every year for Halloween, oh, hang on. So every year for Halloween, if we go trick or treating, obviously we do because we have kids. I put out a big bowl of candy and I fill it to the brim, and I put a sign on it that says, "Please take 2." And I have a camera, typically a doorbell camera. So kids are usually like pretty good about paying attention to the note and following the directions because, they're good kids and they know that there's candy at the next house too. And also they got to leave some for the other kids. Kids are just nice and innocent. I love kids. So this individual walks up to my candy bowl, which is full, by the way, in the video. And they are, if whoever they are not a child. It is very obvious that they are not a child. Their shoes are huge. They honestly look like dad shoes. And they're just huge. This person is huge. And he's masked, so I can't see their face. And so they come up to my candy bowl and they very clearly look very closely at the sign and they read the frickin' sign and then proceed to take my entire bowl of candy. My entire bowl of candy. Not even like dump it into the bag because, I mean, by God, that would be less painful to watch. No, they take handful after handful because it's like, oh, maybe they're going to be done now. Nope. There they go, taking more, taking more, taking. I was so mad when I got home because I was like, oh my God, there were so many trick or treaters and I hadn't watched my Ring camera yet. And so I ended up looking at my Ring camera because I was like, I cannot believe we went through that candy that quick. And this guy took all of our freaking candy. So here is my lesson to you guys. Please don't be this guy. Be respectful because people get this amount of candy. Candy's not cheap. And also, they get this candy not for one person, they get it for multiple kids who Halloween is actually for. The scary shit's for adults. But kids like trick or treating, man. So don't ruin it for them. Jerk. And that was in North Pole, by the way, North Pole, Alaska. So y'all be on the lookout for this a-hole, this masked a-hole who, you know, is a candy thief and greedy little candy thief. I'm I'm so salty about it still. Anyway, I will post the video on Facebook and Instagram or whatever for you guys to see. But don't be that guy. So I'm going to get on with it. This isn't going to be a super long episode. I'm going to tell you guys, I found some Reddit thread about people who worked at haunted houses and talked about their experiences as workers. So I'm going to tell you guys about these people's experiences. So this first one is by a Reddit user, Casey Michelle. It says, I worked in a haunted house when I was 15 and was awful because I would giggle with anticipation. Same, I would too. I was the first stop in the house and it was well lit. It was a well lit hallway. This grown man walked in with his girlfriend or whatever, and I'm in a Scream costume, which was way too big, so you can't see my feet. And first off, I love that she calls it a Scream costume because I've always called them a Scream costume. I've never called it Ghostface up until like the more recent Scream years. So I always called it Scream, which also was my costume of choice, by the way. Good job, Casey. So I actually managed to stand as still as a statue without giggling. They walk by, no issues. Then he says, "That's fake, isn't it?" Come on. Do you think it's fake? Yeah, it's fake. I'm about to pass out from holding my breath, and he's just staring. Then he gets really close and stares. I'm waiting for him to either walk away or try to touch me. After what seems like forever, he finally brings his hand up to touch me, and I take the opportunity to let out a huge scream and lunge towards him. I was a 15-year-old girl, barely 5 feet. He's a 35 something, 6 feet burly man, and his scream was so loud and much higher pitched than mine. It sounded like an upset 2-year-old. I expected to get punched, but his flailing arms limply batting at the air. He runs out the entrance going, fuck this, fuck this. His girlfriend cracking up, following him. I nearly wet myself. I couldn't stop laughing. That was pretty good. This next one is from JSD, again, Reddit user. And it says, "This is probably one of my favorite moments when I used to haunt. Big, huge professional attraction. Me, small girl, another small girl. Three big burly dudes looked like rugby players. I was working in a large maze room and sent all three of them crashing directly through the wall to the point that they knocked it completely down, thankfully into a utility hallway and not another room with people in it, causing four other walls to come crashing down. I unfortunately got moved to a less fun room for the rest of the night while mine was being repaired. Another favorite was big, strong, tough looking guys with their petite girlfriends. Their first reaction almost always is literally throw their girlfriends at the scary thing and take off like a bat out of hell." Oh my god, I missed my calling. Actually, I didn't miss my calling. I'm still small, so I could totally work in a haunted house and not be, like, suspected. Dude, I think I just found my new dream job. I think I wanna work in a haunted house next year. That would be so much fun. Okay, anyway. So, this one is by Usernam. I don't know, whatever, Reddit user. "It's always the big burly ones, isn't it? And I love this. Is it real or just a statue? Scares way more than the jump scares, chases you, or loud bang scares. My personal favorite is from working a haunted house at MSI in Chicago. I worked with a private zoo and we were hired for the kitty area. We had a petting zoo, but we also had some pretty creepy stuff. A wall of display aquariums that held all kinds of creepy crawlies, including a live black widow, and baboon spiders. Another display aquarium that had real pig's head being devoured by live rats, and a candy bowl full of, yes, candy, but also living, hissing cockroaches and mealworms. Gross. In any case, we also have a life size homemade casket, just the cheesy kind, not very convincing. Plywood panels hammered together, spray painted black with a hinged plywood lid that was propped open. We'd toss a few dark towels in the bottom, and then we'd have a dozen or two rats running around the coffin. My gig was to lie in the coffin with the rats running around me. Nope. While I lay as still as possible and play, I could just hear Amy's reaction from this. She'd be like, that's Amy's reaction. So good job, Amy. All right. So while I lay as still as possible and play mannequin, it was a great gig because I could keep my eyes open a really long time and lie very, very still and just follow people with my eyes. No head movement, no blinking, just perfectly still body with eyes that followed you. It's great how many people thought I was a mannequin, even with my eyes moving, because of how creepy it looked and the fact they thought nobody in their right mind would lie in a coffin full of rats. True. The best scare I got was probably doing this gig when a group of big, burly black men, all in plaid, came through. They were giving each other the usual debate. Is she real? Nah, man. No way. That's crawling with rats. And to this, that sometimes I would also leave my mouth open and let the rats put their heads and forepaws in my mouth. There's Amy again. Ew. I was doing this just when one of the guys came a little too close for inspection. I lunged up at his face, rat still in my mouth, making this loud gargling scream. Dude shrieked, jumped back, and him and all of his buddies hightailed it out, half screaming, half laughing their asses off, tossing freaked out glances over their shoulders at me the whole way. There's something deeply satisfying about being a tiny 5'2" white girl terrifying a group of hardened Chicago men. I agree. I love scaring giant people as well. Kudos to you. Good job. This next one is by White Collared Neck. Original. All right. I just love these names. So great. A few years ago, I went to a local haunted house with the girl I was dating at the time. She was scared shitless of clowns. We're working our way through this house and we make it down to the basement. We shuffle through the dark into what feels like a decently sized room when weirdly colored lights switched on and circus music starts playing. F that. Clowns and come climbing out of hiding places around the room and moving and slowly moving towards us, laughing like deranged motherfuckers when when we're almost on when they're almost on us. The lights shut off, pitch black. Nope. Nope. See, I don't play around clown rooms either. She's clinging to my arm, and I'm trying to find my way out of the room in complete darkness. The circus music is still blasting. I don't find anything but walls while I'm feeling around. Finally, I find a door and open it. My girlfriend and I go in and shut it behind us. We find that this new room is cramped and small and started looking for a way out. She's still panicking when we hear a scratching on the door. Somebody is fumbling for the knob. The door opens, and we see the outline of someone's face lean into the room. Girlfriend's face is buried in my shoulder. The face starts to talk. It says, "Dude, you're in a closet." I guess it's not the worker's experience, but it's someone's experience with a worker. I love the stories whenever like they go out of character and they're like, they have to be like, let me have a come to Jesus with you. That's pretty good. You're in a closet. My sister actually went to a haunted house at SeaWorld. She's been to it multiple times. And so I guess she went like maybe the third time a couple weeks ago with my mom and her some friends of hers, and they went to it. And again, my sister's been to it before, but apparently they got into the first room and my sister hightails it, runs all the way through the haunted house with like her eyes closed or whatever, and just left everybody in the dust. And at the end, my mom and them like they're like, "Where'd you go?" She's like, "I've been hanging out here with this guy." She's just at the very end of the haunted house. Yeah, I love a good haunted house. I have been to many, and I have also seen big burly men get scared because my dad was one of them, where we went into a really good one. I think it was in like Destin or something here in Florida, and we get into this strobe light room, and those always freak me out because usually it involves someone like, in a corner. They start in a corner and, like, they get closer and closer, and it seems so much more scarier because it's through a strobe light. But there was a girl crawling on the floor in this one, and my dad was the first one to go in there, and he turns around and looks at us because 'cause we're all behind him, and he's like, "I'm not going in there." I was like, "Dad, you have to go in there." And he's like, "I'm not going in there." And we're like, "Alright." Yeah, that was pretty great. He went. So this next one is by Lovely Colors, and it says, "For the past 2 years, I volunteered for a pretty popular haunted house in our city. Nothing too over the top, but most people know about it, and it's a good way to spend October, I think. I was working the mirror rooms at night last year. Normally, the average mirror room has 2 distorted ones, a straight hallway. This one was made to completely with you. People dressed in either all black or white and had clown costumes on and hid in the corners. Yep. Every couple feet, there was a turn that took you into a part that didn't lead to the exit." Who comes up with this? Like, so whoever's coming up with this is literally giggling to themselves as they're like, somebody's gonna pee their pants. And throughout it, there was a strobe light as your only source of light. And here we go with the strobe light. So they had me in a black and white costume, pure black robes, and then striped face paint all over my face and arms. I hid in a corner and was able to get into a small ball. Almost pure black hair helped me hide too, and wait for people to walk by. They'd be having fun, laughing as they were getting lost and trying to find their way out since they couldn't find anyone there to scare them. So it must just be a weird room, right? Then I'd jump up and shriek at them. The best one was this guy, probably in his 40s, probably 2 feet taller than me, another big burly man and a small little girl, probably 2 feet taller than me, who screamed and started flailing and trying to get away or hit me. He kept launching himself at my reflections. the, Through, and there were easily 5 or 6 of those. So I moved out of the corner and went into the side room and laughed my ass off as he ran off, yelling, "Oh my fucking God, what the hell?" Oh, all right. I think this one is the last one I have for you guys. So it says, "I have worked many, many years in a haunted forest. The one that I worked the one that I worked at has now been opened for 20 years. That's a long time. I started working there for the first year when I was a sophomore in high school. I worked 12 or 13 of the years they have been open. So, with that said, I have some crazy shit. First one, I remember one year I had scared some girl and she slipped in the mud. Getting knockdowns, as we call them, are highlights of the night. We keep track of them. As I am standing over her, yelling to get up, she started crying and screaming, "I can't," over and over. This goes on for probably 30 to 45 seconds, and I finally asked her, "Why?" And her reply, "You're standing on my hair." Oh, oh. Another time, I was working the chainsaw and came up to the back of a group right behind a couple. As I fire off the chainsaw, the girl tries to run faster than her feet are ready and starts falling. She grabbed onto the guy and he just turned around and pushed her down. He took off. Oh my gosh. He took off running and yelled out, "Bitch, you're on your own." I laughed so hard I completely missed the next group. Oh man. This one happened recently when I was dressed in an enormous Sasquatch costume. Some workers ahead had this group of guys running, and they run around the corner of the path to where I am standing. All 3 of them just bolted off into the woods. 2 of them mad it back out, but the third didn't show up. 2 of them mad. What? I'm confused about that. Typo. So I went off to, okay, so one of them backed out, and 2 of them, it sounded like some of them bolted. So I went off to look for him. About 5 off the path, I find him on the ground at the foot of a tree, apparently knocked out. Oh my god. So I'm standing over him asking if he's okay. I clearly see his eyes flutter open and then he just starts screaming. It must have been somewhat disturbing being awoken from running into a tree and knocking yourself out by a Sasquatch. Anyway, he's screaming and his feet and legs start moving like he's running, but he's lying on his back. He finally got himself up and ran off, presumably to meet up with his friends. No, I have seen so many people wet themselves that you can't even keep track of it. I've seen people come through drunk high, tripping on acid, running off to the woods, finding people sleeping, workers and customers, broken up and been parts of fights. Oh, and been parts of fights, seen people get knocked out because they scared some guy who didn't know how else to react. It always seems to me that more often than not, people would just lose their minds and let their animal instincts take over them. Wow. So maybe that might make me rethink working in a haunted house just because I don't want to get knocked out, but I still want to work in a haunted house. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm pretty short. I think I could handle it. I think I could just, they just wouldn't reach me because I'm too short. They wouldn't expect to have to hit that short. So, yeah, that is some great haunted house experiences. And I think that's all I got for you guys. Make sure you tune in. Hopefully, later this week, we'll have a bonus episode for your children. So, in the meantime, if you want to send a couple extra little, I think we've got like, I don't know, 10 of them now. If you want to send a couple extra of your spooky, scary bedtime stories, if they make it, great. If they don't, then we still can use them for next year. So they can be jokes, they can be stories that they make up themselves, they can be passages from their favorite spooky books that they've read. Just make sure you cite your source. But send them in to wwtnpodcast@gmail.com quickly because I don't know when we're going to record it. But regardless, like I said, we can use them for next year. So don't stress. Anyway, have you checked in on your neighbors lately? What's with the neighbors? Being aiming out. Psh. Say hi to your cats for us. Meow. Don't get dead.